So they're saying Vivek Ramaswamy stole the show. And from what I've seen, he actually stole the show because I noticed about, since he's not a politician and Donald Trump is the same way, he's not a politician. They tend to not give you politically correct answers. They just straight shooters, straight from the hip. They're not going to beat around the bush, and they don't care how you feel about them. And Vivek Ramaswamy demonstrated that last night. He stood firm on what he believed in. He didn't look around to see, okay, what are you guys going to answer? So there were several questions that the moderator asked them whether, number one, whether or not if they wanted to or if they would support Donald Trump if he was actually convicted of a crime. And there was several people on stage. Tim Scott was one of them. Vivek, he raised his hand, and I believe Nikki raised her hand. But Governor Christie, Ron DeSantis, they all waited okay, what are you guys gonna choose? Which was kind of like, what are you doing? Just say yes or no. Would you support your, just say yes or no. But I guess they're probably wanting a job, so they're tiptoeing through the tulips per se, because they don't really want to say how they feel. But if you don't like Donald Trump, this is your own free will. You don't have to necessarily like the man, and if you don't like him, you don't need to support him. Even Mike Pence, he was waiting for people to say, okay, what would they, okay, let me raise my hand, which is totally ludicrous. And also several questions about Ukraine.
Issues like Social Security and Medicare. I mean, Vivek, you recently said a president can't do everything. Well, I got news for you, Vivek. I've been in the hallway. I've been in the West Wing. A president of the United States has to confront every crisis facing America. I will put our nation back on the path to growth and prosperity and restore fiscal responsibility, just as I did in Congress and as governor,
Mr. Vice President,
and when I was vice president.
But
yeah, I mean, hold on. You were named earlier. I'm going to give Vivek first.
We'll get to both of them.
This isn't that complicated, guys. Unlock American energy. Drill, frack, burn coal, embrace nuclear. Put people back to work by no longer paying them more to stay at home. Reform the U.S. Fed, stabilize the U.S. dollar, and go to war. The only war that I will declare as U.S. president will be the war on the federal administrative state that is the source of those toxic regulations acting like a wet blanket on the economy. So I'm not sure I exactly understood Mike Pence's comment, but I'll let you all parse that out. For me, it's pretty simple. That's something a U.S. president can do with focus, and I'll deliver on it.
Let me explain it to you. Vivek. You got people.
So, and you know what? And this is what I'm saying. I will restore the economy, blah, blah, blah. But you're not explaining exactly what you're going to do. You're like, okay, well, you got to work with other people. But still, what are you running on? And that's the problem. They really missed the mark on these types of questions. So Vivek, he totally owned it. It's just you've been part of this rodeo before. You should have been still in the spotlight. But of course, this younger guy, Vivek, is only 38. I think they said he's the youngest ever to run for president. We could go over and on all his clips that he was very clear and concise
of actual climate.
This is talking about climate change. And I agree with this sentiment. Okay, if you believe in climate change, yeah, okay, we need to do some other stuff so we won't depend our energy or resources on other countries. But I totally disagree. You're trying to put a lot of people out of work. You're trying to say, what if we're a capitalist country and we believe in a home of the free, land of the brave, but now you have regulations and government controlling of what you can produce and sell. I mean, you're not selling drugs, but Larry Elder just pointed out when he was on the Breakfast Club, he said in California, the governor Newsom banning sale of gas-powered vehicles by 2035. And it's like, okay, so you're just trying to put people out of business, but you're not giving no alternative, which is totally ludicrous. You just want people just to depend on the federal government.
People are dying of bad climate change policies than they are of actual climate change.
Governor Haley, are you bought and paid for?
Down by
Hold on.
in the last century.
Listen. Hold on.
I've had enough already tonight.
Check this out. That Governor Christie, go eat. Go sit down and eat somewhere, because you don't really make no sense. But check this out. This is totally ludicrous.
Of a guy who sounds like ChatGPT standing up here. And the last person in one of these debates, Brett, who stood in the middle of the stage and said, "What's a skinny guy with an odd last name doing up here?" was Barack Obama. And I'm afraid we're dealing with the same type of amateur standing on stage tonight.
Come over and give me a hug. Give me a hug just like you did to Obama.
The same type of amateur.
And you'll help elect me just like you did to Obama, too. Give me that
the same type of amateur.
Hold on.
Governor Christie tried to, one up him, but what was the point of that? He called him ChatGPT. Actually, it was pretty funny, but like I said, that wasn't his point. We're talking about climate change, and you trying to throw out insults about which is entertaining, but why would you compare him to Obama? Are you saying they look alike? Because they totally don't have the same politics. So maybe that's just what he was trying to do to steal the spotlight. Let me go to Nikki Haley. She wants to so much be like that identity politics. I can't remember what platform I was listening to her on, but she mentioned like, oh, I'm a brown girl. I grew up in this city or in America just like you as a brown girl, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, okay, can you do the job? Who cares if you're a brown girl? Who cares if you're a green girl? Can you actually do the job? You're running for the president of the United States. And I see you trying to win over women. Maybe that's probably why she said that. But you're going to be the leader of the free world. Can you actually do the job? And I don't think Nikki has it in her to do the job. And I think she always contradicts herself in some of the statements that she makes. So this is Nikki Haley.
The truth. The truth is that I don't care about polls. What I care about, the fact is that no one is telling the American people the truth. The truth is that Biden didn't do this to us. Our Republicans did this to us, too. When they passed that $2.2 trillion COVID stimulus bill, they left us with 90 million people on Medicaid, 42 million people on food stamps. No one has told you how to fix it. I'll tell you how to fix it. They need to stop the spending. They need to stop the borrowing. They need to eliminate the earmarks that the Republicans brought back in. And they need to make sure they understand these are taxpayer dollars. It's not their dollars. And while they're all saying this, you have Ron DeSantis, you've got Tim Scott, you've got Mike Pence. They all voted to raise the debt. And Donald Trump added $8 trillion to our debt. And our kids are never going to forgive us for this. And so at the end of the day, you look at the 2024 budget, Republicans asked for $7.4 billion in earmarks.
So she's talking about the spending. And I agree with her sentiment. Yeah, the spending is kind of out of control, and we do need to balance the budget. Not to take up for Donald Trump. He didn't know it was going to be a pandemic. So either you said you got all these states, they went on and shut everybody down, businesses down, you couldn't work, you couldn't make any money. Okay, so how are you expecting the people to live? So that's where that spending is coming from. But on the other hand, they're still spending. They're giving money to Ukraine. And the people in Hawaii, which is our people, Hawaii, they're part of the United States of America. They gave them $700 a household. And they're probably, what is the new word, houseless. They're out of a house. out of a home. But we stand steady spending our taxpayer dollars going to Ukraine.
I don't care about polls. What I care about the fact is that no one is telling the American dollars. And while they're all saying this, you have Ron DeSantis, you've got Tim Scott, you've got Mike Pence. They all voted to raise the debt. And Donald Trump added $8 trillion to our debt. And our kids are never going to forgive us for this. And so at the end of the day, you look at the 2024 budget, Republicans asked for $7.4 billion in earmarks. Democrats asked for $2.8 billion. So you tell me who are the big spenders. I think it's time for an accountant in the White House.
Vice President.
I don't care about polls. What I care about the fact is that no one is telling the American people.
So I do agree with what she's saying. They do need to cut the spending out. I don't think she's genuine, and I just don't like her as a president. I don't know her as a person, but I don't get the warm and fuzzy feeling about her.
He's going to spend more time in a courtroom than he's going to spend on the campaign trail. We cannot allow a President Kamala Harris. We have to win that general election. And in order to do that, you can't do that with someone who literally 3/4 of the American people don't want to see Biden and Trump run again. And the majority of Americans, he is the most disliked politician in all of America. That's reality. And that person can't win a general election, and we can't afford to have Kamala Harris become our president.
He's saying Donald Trump is the most disliked person as a politician. I don't think so. I think you have them way more extreme on the other side that don't like him. I think you have super supporters of him. And I think now that we have Biden in office, the people that didn't support Trump are starting to say, okay, well, maybe Trump was doing right. Less commentating from Trump. If he spent less time talking, as far as he's an entertainer. So less entertainment and more doing the work, because I think he did do a good job as president. Anyway, moving forward. So we have another highlight. This is just his introduction, which I appreciate, because Vivek, in America, we want to celebrate, your differences and blah, blah, blah. It's nothing wrong with that, to celebrate your culture. But he pointed out, we live in America. We all Americans. We breathe the same air. We all bleed the same blood. You probably got a different blood type, but we all bleed. And instead of celebrating our differences, we need to celebrate. And I think that's where we will come together, celebrate of how we have a common ground with one another, because we're all human and we're all Americans. So this is his introduction.
In 1985, and I grew up into a generation where we were taught to celebrate our diversity and our differences so much that we forgot all of the ways we are really just the same as Americans, bound by a common set of ideals that set this nation into motion in 1776. And this is our moment to revive those common ideals. God is real. There are two genders. Fossil fuels are a requirement for human prosperity. Reverse racism is racism. An open border is not a border. Parents determine the education of their children. The nuclear family is the greatest form of governance known to man. Capitalism lifts us up from poverty. There are 3 branches of government, not 4. And the U.S. Constitution, it is the strongest guarantor of freedom in human history. That is what won us the American Revolution. That is what will win us the revolution of 2024. Thanks for letting me introduce myself tonight. Thank you.
And he's charismatic, and people tend to like him. At least, it sounds like they liked him. Linnell said Vivek sounds like a Trump wannabe. Linnell, leave Vivek alone. Cal said Vivek was accurate yesterday when he said that the others are paid and bought for. Some of the candidates know that they will lose and want to show on maybe MSNBC. Yeah, they're bought and paid for. I think most of these politicians are bought and paid for, especially on this stage. I think it was absolutely ridiculous of, when you ask a question and, you're looking down to see, okay, what are my other opponents answering? Like why can't you make a decision? Why are you teetering on the fence? Anyway, this is Vivek about the establishment GOP.
In a court of law, all signed a pledge to support the eventual Republican nominee. If former President Trump is convicted in a court of law, would you still support him as your party's choice? Please raise your hand if you would.
President Trump, I believe, was the best president of the 21st century. It's a fact. And Chris Christie, honest to God, your claim that Donald Trump is motivated by vengeance and grievance would be a lot more credible if your entire campaign were not based on vengeance and grievance against one man. And if people at home want to see a bunch of people blindly bashing Donald Trump without an iota of vision for this country, they could just change the channel to MSNBC right now. But I'm not running for president of MSNBC. I am running for president of the United States. We're skating on thin ice, and we cannot set a precedent where the party in power uses police force to indict its political opponents. It is wrong. We have to end the weaponization of justice in this country.
30 seconds, Governor DeSantis.
Let me tell you something.
I'm sorry. 30 seconds, Governor Christie.
You make me laugh because
Goes both ways, brother.
you sit here in an answer. You sit here in an answer right.
Hold on one second.
You sit here in an answer.
He can't even get his answers out because they was booing him. It's like when you lost the debate, when the crowd started booing you, this is like bad for him. They started booing him. Like, what is the problem? I don't know what this was about. It says Nikki Haley is America last. It's not the Israeli needs America. America needs Israeli. That's what she said. Let me pull this up.
America needs
I want to learn from those and apply those to protect our homeland, Nikki.
Israel
that is the
needs
answer.
America needs Israel.
Okay. I want to learn from those and apply those.
So she's saying America needs Israel. I don't know why you would say that. But whatever. So I think I got through most of the highlights. There was one more I wanted to show you guys, but I don't know if I saved that. Okay, this is Ron DeSantis before I get to this other Vivek Ramaswamy. This is Ron DeSantis talking about the lockdown and what he did. I could appreciate what the state of Florida did because he was totally different. Everyone, especially in Michigan that I knew that had a property in Florida, they said, oh, we're not staying in Michigan because we're locked down. They're not locked down in Florida. So I could appreciate what he's saying here in this particular clip. And he's really talking about the deep state.
Here's the thing. Why are we in this mess? Part of it, and a major reason, is because how this federal government handled COVID-19 by locking down this economy. It was a mistake. It should have never happened. And in Florida, we led the country out of lockdown. We kept our state free and open. And I can tell you this, as your president, I will never let the deep state bureaucrats lock you down. You don't take somebody like Fauci and coddle him. You bring Fauci in, you sit him down, and you say, Anthony, you are fired.
You could tell that was practice. Like, you don't like Donald Trump, but you're using Donald Trump, you trying to steal his thunder because Donald Trump says that. You are fired. He spoke up, some of these highlights, all you see is Vivek in it. Vivek Ramaswamy stole the show. And it's undeniable that he was the leader of this debate. Now, this is Vivek talking about Zelensky.
Mr. Ramaswamy, you would not support an increase of funding to Ukraine?
I would not. And I think that this is disastrous that we are protecting against an invasion across somebody else's border when we should use those same military resources to prevent across the invasion of our own southern border here in the United States of America. We are driving Russia further into China's hands. The Russia-China alliance is the single greatest threat we face, and I find it offensive that we have professional politicians on the stage that will make a pilgrimage to Kyiv, to their Pope, Zelensky, without doing the same thing for people in Maui or the south side of Chicago or Kensington. I think that we have to put the interests of Americans first, secure our own border instead of somebody else's. And the reality is, this is also how we project strength by making America strong at home.
And you could tell Vivek, he debates all the time. You could tell that was his thing in college. He likes debating. But he stood firm on his ground. Like I said, he stole the show. Now, I got one more clip, and let me see. I think this is it. This is Vivek Ramaswamy. This is about a crisis on educational crisis in family households.
So to the education question, how would you deal with the crisis?
So look, we have a crisis of achievement. Let's shut down the head of the snake, the Department of Education. Take that $80 billion, put it in the hands of parents across this country. This is the civil rights issue of our time. Allow any parent to choose where they send their kids to school. End the teachers' unions at the local level to allow public schools to compete. And then revive our national identity where every high school senior should have to pass the same civics test that, frankly, every immigrant, including my mother, had to pass in order to become a citizen of this country. And the fact of the matter is, look, there's a part of education policy that also rests with the family. I didn't grow up in money, but you know the word privilege gets used a lot? Well, you know what? I did have the ultimate privilege of two parents in the house with a focus on educational achievement. And I want every kid to enjoy that. So part of the problem is we also have a federal government that pays single women more not to have a man in the house than to have a man in the house, contributing to an epidemic of fatherlessness. And I think that goes hand in glove with the education crisis as well, because we have to remember education starts with the family, and the nuclear family is the greatest form of governance.
You can't get mad at that.